Howdy again, guys, and welcome to another episode of Babbling and Cooking. Today it's MusicDane doing the highly anticipated Bolognese sauce. I'm trying to do it as traditional as the Italians in Bologna do it. And they say buongiorno e salve. To you, I don't know, I would just say Bolognese, let's go. So here we go. And we have already prepared the ingredients on the table. There's some things that we can say to start. You use beef. There is no way that you're ever going to use veal. It's beef, or there is a chance that they will accept if you make a mix of pork and beef, but the main ingredients should always be beef. The same goes for the stock. It should be beef stock and not veal stock. Then a very tender and a very important point is the pancetta. It's basically, in Danish, it's called bacon. And bacon is, in Denmark, a little bit smoked. And you can look here, this is not bacon, this is pancetta, which I already did in advance, cutting in strips, and smaller cubes, because I don't want meat on my cutting board here, because I'm going to cut some veggies there later. So meat and veggies on the same board is a big no-no. So, but pancetta usually is what they in Italy they use, and it's not smoked, but basically the same like what I said, bacon in Denmark. So we can use bacon if we didn't have pancetta, but we have. The beef should be, there's no doubt it should be about 15% of fat. It should be with amount of fat that gives taste and not too lean. We also need to, as this is a ragu, this is not a sauce. It's a big no-no to say it's a sauce. It's a ragu. It's going to be boiled and it has to simmer for at least 2 hours on the stove. And that's why it's a ragu. And that's why it's a good idea with a pretty high percentage of fat in the meat, so you don't go dry. You will have to add the milk halfway through in this, and you also have to add white wine. In Bologna, they use white wine. I know many people everywhere, they say, we use red wine. They don't do that. They can do it, but they will not accept it as the traditional. I go into the Cultural Institute and I check them and what their prescription is or the recipe is for real traditional Bolognese. They say white wine. They also say milk and not cream, like many people say they use cream, but the sauce will be too sticky and too, glossy, I don't know, sticky, yeah? It should not be that. So milk is I think, the right choice here. Anyway, celery sticks, onions, carrots, and tomato pasta, they use passata. Passata is basically just green tomatoes without the seeds and all the bad stuff inside. They just blend it completely, and then you have passata. I choose to just take chopped tomatoes in a can, and I'm going to blend this, and then I guess the result is close to being the same. It's not really a big tragedy if I do this. I know they'll use passata, but that's why we also add this puree. It's very solid and very compact, or what should I say? Compact tomato substance. So when you add it to this, you get passata. So basically, this is the ingredients for a good Bolognese, and then during all this, you give beef stock so that this don't get dry, and then just simmer for like forever. That's why it's a ragu. So let's go and start. And the first step is to start off on the stove, on the bowl, and trust me, the Italians even have rules for what you use. First of all, I am not allowed to use a plastic spoon. It should be wood. According to the Institute of Culture, I should also use a deep pan, which preferably is cast iron. I am breaking all laws today, so I'm using a normal alu bowl with a plastic spoon and laminate or whatever it is. And I am sure that I'm not going to heaven for that, but I'm sure it will taste the same. So let's go and start cooking and make the highly anticipated Bolognese ragu, not a sauce. And then let's see what you guys say about this. If something that you think that you want to try at home, I think it's pretty easy to do it. You just need a little bit of chop work and a little bit of roasting, and then just patience and leaving it for simmering. And then you have a very, very nice ragu, which is great. It works with everything. I'm going to serve it with and now I'm definitely not sure I'll not go to heaven now. I'm serving it with spaghetti. That is not an okay idea if you're from Bologna, but they use tagliatelle. Tagliatelle basically is just pasta in long strips, dense, but more fresh, of course, and it can absorb more sauce. Maybe that's why. But I'm going to break all laws today since I'm in that mood, so it's going to be spaghetti. But then all the rest of it is pretty close to traditional Bolognese. So guys, come and follow me in the kitchen. Let's see what's going on when we somehow get to the end of this experiment today. Okay, and since it's the babbling channel of babblers, MusicDane have to tell you a little bit of pre-story about me, because maybe I didn't tell it in the previous videos, but I've been working in a couple of restaurants and been part of the crew in several kitchens. I've worked in pizzerias, I worked in burger bars, I worked in many places involving food. I don't know if you should maybe see one of our jokes here in this kitchen is something that fits me pretty well. Never trust a skinny chef. No need to elaborate on that one. It fits me perfectly, and so it seems to me I've been in the kitchen for enough time. Anyway, I have my own recipes basically on everything. I try out other people's recipes often, but I stick to my own recipes because it's like a safety blanket. It's true, and it works every time. And I've done it a million times. So this is the same case here with the Bolognese. I'm going through my cabinet where my daily recipes are. I have a lot of file folders here. I'm gonna find my sauce. As you can see, there's many sauce related. I have my pepper sauce and I have my original red wine sauce. I'm gonna show you that at a point. This is really a dish in itself. It's red wine sauce is a cornerstone in all European, I think Northern European cuisine. I made my own recipe, of course. It cannot be any different, but you will see. One day I'm going to show that for you. And I have other paprika sauces here, another paprika sauce. And in this, my file folder, just with sauces, Bolognese, LLAs. Yeah, that's how it is when you MusicDane and cooking in the kitchen, of course. Everything is LLAs. So that is what we're going to do now. I found the recipe. So let's go. So first I heat up our bowl here. And this is a little bit above medium heat on the stove. I use normal oil. I know that in Italy they use olive oil, but we're not. Many people in my family and in my acquaintance, they don't like the taste what you get from olive oil if you heat it. We use it in salads, cold salads, but we use this oil instead, vegetable oil. And it's also very healthy. And as long as you don't heat it up to a too high temperature and saturate the fat, it's actually a healthy option compared to other fatties. So, did I ever say all other fatties? Am I included in that one? No, never mind. We're going to heat up this, and then we're going to add our pancetta. This has to roast, and when this at some point reaches the temperature and get up in heat, it should at some point start roasting down here, and you do that for about 10 minutes until it's more roasted. And while that is going on, we are going to chop our celery sticks. We need 2 of them, like this, and they have to be like this thickness. One. Some people like to eat them just as a snack. They like the crunchy part, and some say they're even a little bit sweet. I don't know about that, but I think they're perfect in this and stews. And in this Bolognese Ragù, there was 2 of these. Before I started all this, I washed my hands. This is one of the things that I take very seriously, as you know. So we have our onion. Usually it's 1 big onion or maybe 2 medium size. So something's going on here. And as you can see, it starts melt. So that's going according to plan. So that is the onion. So it's the carrots. I prefer to do this. Too easy to make cubes of this. I have a tool actually to make perfect cubes, but today we're doing it manually. The second one, we take a check at our pancetta again, because it's not allowed to be brown. But it's very important that it melts the fat, and you can see it's already doing that. Of course, I gave oil to it, but that's gonna be a beneficial thing for us later in the stew and in Ragù. But first step, really very important that we do this. It has to melt perfectly. That's basically it. The veggies are very important of this because it gives the sweet and the veggie-based taste to all this. It's not just meat sauce. It's a mix. It's a stew. It's ragu. So as you can see, got here. We got our veggies ready. We got our meat. We have the white wine. Here later is the beef stock. Starts to look melted. I don't know if you guys can see, but it starts really to give a lot of fluid away. And that is basically where I would say it's time to add the veggies. So let's do that. Sure. We're gonna let it simmer a while, like 10 minutes, at least 15 probably. I think 15 minutes. What you basically need is just the veggies to be soft. No browning, no roasting, no nothing. But it has to be softened up and have that gentle touch to it. So it's we call it blanchering. It basically means that you don't roast it, you don't boil it, but you give it until it's soft and glossy. And we are halfway, I would say. So we give it peace for a while. Right, so while our pancetta and veggies are having a good time on the stove, because they really need this maybe 15 minutes to get soft and get gentle, let's blend the tomatoes and make our passata. I use, of course, the biggest blender in the house. We have smaller ones, but I really like this. And I use full can of tomatoes. And then I use also a full can of these. Concentrated tomato. Let's get a spoon for that. It will give that passata feel because it's so concentrated. Some would say maybe it's easier just to buy the passata instead of doing this mix here. But I know from experience that if you do these two kinds of things together, I actually think that it's almost better than a usual passata. But of course, that's an individual opinion. But for me, I like when they're added like this. So we get this blended. Starting to look real here. Sure. Because now this is ready. We put it here. Because the next step is to add the meat. And so, in order to make everything in the right order, you have to add the meat now when you have added the veggies and not when you have added the tomato. This is very important because you will never get this roasted if you add the tomato, but you can do it with the veggies. So we're going to do that now. Goes in the kitchen of the MusicDane, huh? There's no panic at all. It's just I'm sweating like I'm being shot or something because suddenly the summer came to Denmark. We had 13 degrees for like, I don't know, all June. And now suddenly we have 24. And that is pretty brutal and drastic change in temperature suddenly. Now, anyway, I add the meat, as you can see. And it's very important to really, really, really divide it and chop it up and allow it to get mixed with the veggies. And then, again, we're going to turn up the volume a little bit on this. I will actually give it 80% because it's important that we get our meat roasted. And that happens only if you increase the heat. So after a while being on pretty medium-low heat on the stove, we are now at medium-high. This is also the moment we add some pepper. We do not add salt because pancetta, even though that it's not as salty as Danish bacon, it's still salty a bit. So we will wait doing the salt until the end of the dish so we can do it to taste. But the pepper is okay to give it now. I give it 1 teaspoon. And it's anyway the right moment to do it now. When you add the meat, you also add pepper. Usually also the salt, but not today. So I'm gonna give it a little bit of peace. But you guys, you can see how it looks. It should look like this. We still have some roasting to do, I guess about 10 minutes. At which point we're ready to add the tomato and this passata, what we made, and the beef stock. So let's give it a little bit of peace and we will get back. So guys, just a very fast resume, like how to do it from the beginning. Basically, you dice the pancetta into small cubes and fry it gently in some oil for about 10 minutes. You do that on medium heat, and then you finely chop the onion, celery, and the carrot, which you also add to the pot. You let them soften slowly about 10 minutes, maybe 15, and that is on a relatively low heat. Then you increase the heat and add the ground beef, and it should be browned thoroughly. You add the black pepper, but no salt, as I mentioned, not at this stage. And basically, when we are done doing this, we're waiting for the wine, because I forgot to say that just before. That is basically what we need to put first before we put the tomato. So I think we're at this point ready to do this, and because I think it's ready for the next step, and that is to add the wine. This is a gentle semi-dulce, the name is. It's a Portuguese white wine. It's half dry, semi-dry. It's not too sweet, but not too sharp either. And that is the perfect choice for this sauce, because it's it don't reek of alcohol, and it's still sweet enough to give some gentle notes, but it also has the taste of white wine. So Portuguese white wine, I can in this case I can recommend. It's a very gentle wine. You can use it for many occasions, even just drinking by itself. The name of this wine is Cruzares. Cruzares, and that is a Portuguese white wine, semi-dulce, and it goes perfectly with this Bolognese Ragù. I committed the ultimate sin. I forgot to put this on. I know now my life has very little value. I better do it, because it comes with a heavy fine if I don't wear this, because we have to be right. Now I really look like an idiot, right? God, but we are gonna wear it to make everybody happy. I guess it's satisfied. It will satisfy some viewers and terrorize me. But yes, we are doing it the right way, and we at the same time going to have a look at our Bolognese, because it's simmering. The wine is starting to evaporate. You can always smell it. You do this, and when the alcohol smell is gone, it means that it's starting to just evaporate. The fluids of the wine, the taste is still in there, but the fluids is starting to disappear this way. So that's where we are. This is the stage where we are, and he's been doing this for 15 minutes, so I would say that it is enough. Yep. We add the broth. It's a quarter liter, and one of these cubes. I'm sure you can buy it liquid anywhere, but this works for me. Sorry, so we add this and the quarter liter. We wait until that cube has dissolved. We can help it, because then it's time for our passata. We are still at semi-high temperature on the stove. We've been doing that since we added the meat, the beef. So you can get an idea, if you come and look at it, how it looks when we have added this broth stock. Yeah. It looks a little bit thin, and it should be completed like this. Remember, it has to simmer for 2 hours, so yeah. But we are not done yet. We still need the passata. So let's give it a chance to dissolve this cube so we can finally leave the dish for some hours. Is it okay to take it off again? Now I've shown you guys that I have it and I used it for a while. So I think it's okay I take it off again. It's very warm in here, it's 25 degrees. So yeah, I'm going to do the ultimate sin and remove this. It takes time and patience. But if you want to make a real Bolognese, you gotta have patience. You cannot do this in a rush day, but what you can do is you can make a huge portion and you can actually freeze it. And it goes with so many different things. It really doesn't have to be only tagliatelle, spaghetti, whatever. It goes with many things. This is very close to the sauce, which I also use in my own recipe for lasagna. Of course, I add some bechamel or Mornay sauce, muscat, and cream. So it's not completely the same thing, but it's definitely related. But it's also Italian, so maybe lasagna started at the same place. But as you can see, we're just having fun with this, and I think this cube actually is dissolved now in the stock. Now in the water, so we get our beef stock. So now it's time for adding our homemade passata. It smells so good. Real fresh tomato, like this. It smells so good. It's really one of the key ingredients in Bolognese. Yeah, meat and all that, completely correct. But if you don't add tomato, it's not Bolognese. So at this point, we have added almost everything to our Bolognese, except for the milk. The milk we are going to add halfway through the simmering, which we are going to start in a moment. Gonna do this on the lid and on a lower temperature, medium low, I would say. It depends on the stove, but it should not be brutally cooking. It should just be small bubbling, sizzling. So I would say that we are there. We are at this point completely ready to start our simmering. It's gonna happen like this. A little open, and then we just wait. I need to stay here for a while and see if it starts to bubble too brutally, but I can already tell you that I'm going to reduce the temperature to this. This is a little below half of what the stove actually can do, so it may even be too much too, but we'll see. It's already bubbling in the middle. It means we definitely don't need higher temperature. But it starts to look like a sauce, right? So, we're gonna give it peace for a while. So, as you guys can see, MusicDane has been busy cleaning his kitchen. You must keep your kitchen clean at all times. It's not only for your own health, but for everybody. So, as you can see, we were busy while I was away. And I want to show you how it looks, how I want it to look for the next couple of hours. That's simmering. Small, tiny, gentle bubbles everywhere, and this is all. Remember to stir regularly, and just keep an eye on that fluid, the fluid level. It should not go down too brutally. It should not become too dry, but as I can see here, it's not going to be a problem. But if it happens, add more of this beef stock. That's all. So 2 hours like this, regularly stirring, and basically just leave it alone. Yeah, so let's add the broth, the stock. So we give it 1.5 deciliters. I just added a half of these cubes, what I showed you in the beginning. It's important that the sauce during all this is still pretty thin. It should not be too solid yet. It will come later. But since we are halfway, it's also time for the milk to be added. So we give it 2 deciliters of milk. This should be whole milk, not skimmed or anything. It's a 3.5% of fat. And there is no way around it. If you want to do it the Bologna way, you use milk. Like I started to say in the beginning of videos, it's essential. They don't use cream. So milk is giving a creamy but not too creamy sauce, or ragu, excusez-moi. It also gives it a little bit more light color. Still brown red. So another hour of simmering. And then it starts to look like a Bolognese is ready. So 1 hour more. So guys, it seems to me we are coming to an end to our ragu alla Bolognese. 2 hours has passed, simmering under it, gently, cozy, me stirring quite regularly. And let's see how it looks. We are very close to the end. And finally, we will be able to enjoy this fantastic Italian invention. And I have added some temperature on the stove. I increased it to 80% because this is the final stages of our Bolognese. As you can see, we have nice and creamy sauce. It's really, really fantastic. It's really where we're supposed it to be now. It's the perfect mix. It's perfect consistency, texture, you name it. It has it all. And I can smell it. That is absolutely right where it's supposed to be. It's very creamy and still loose enough to mix with that pasta you're gonna use for serving. So what I did, like I just said, increased temperature. As you can see, it's collected. It really looks perfect. This is the moment we start thinking about putting salt. Like I said in the beginning, salt is not something you add to the beginning of this dish. You do it in the end. You do it because of the pancetta, which is salted. So if you put salt in the beginning, you end up having something you cannot eat. That is a really very bad thing. So I'm going to taste it. Wow, it's already almost there. But of course it needs salt. So I give it. This looks more than it is. It's coarse salt, but it looks more brutal than it is. I would say that I just gave it about a teaspoon normal salt. You give it time to dissolve. The salt needs to get all over the sauce. Wow. Oh my God. Wow. Oh, you really get the taste of the meat and the veggies. Everything is there. Full ragu, not just a simple sauce. No, This is really a masterpiece, not because I made it, but because the Italians figured it out. I have to compliment them. You give it this time, make it into ragu, give it this patience and care, and then you end up having a culinary miracle. I think it's a miracle, actually. Wow. Can't wait to put this on the spaghetti. Yeah, it's exactly how it should be. So, I would say the sauce is enough. Perfect. Perfect texture. Absolutely right. Not too thin, not too thick. Yeah, and steam all over the place. Fantastic. I'm professional, you remember. But wow. It's exactly how it should be. And now it had this 5 minutes where I gave it extra heat. And now I can start boiling the spaghetti. In this case, yeah, I know it's an abomination. It should be tagliatelle. Not today. We are doing it simple. But you can easily yourself just, yeah, you can even make your own pasta and use this. But today for us, it's the easy way. We use simple spaghetti to this. I'll get back to you when the spaghetti is on the way, and then we'll serve this dish. So guys, as you can see, we got our water boiling. And for our dish today, it is spaghetti. As you can see, when we make portions here, you can see them. So that's how it is. We let it boil. We will let it boil for the time it takes. Logic, right? So we're gonna leave that, and the sauce we're gonna just give gentle heat, reheating. So soon we will eat. So guys, now we're at the end of the road. I'm going to remove the water from our spaghetti. So, and that is the spaghetti in our restrainer. And we're gonna put it back to this. And do I need to say, we're dealing with a piece of art. I know it's spaghetti. It's pasta. So let's see. This. So. So then, now look at this. Wow. So, my friends, as promised, the real Bolognese Ragù from Bologna in Italy, and alas, of course, what else? Yeah, I know with this variation, it's spaghetti, but I think you can imagine that it's tagliatelle or fusilli, and you could also maybe use your imagination a little bit more to put a little bit of freshly ground Parmesan. cheese on top of this. But I wanted to make it as simple as possible. Right now, this is it. And not very expensive dish to make. It just takes a long time to make it. So this is it, guys. Lars's Bolognese, as promised.